doesn't mean you do a full. You know, I really feel like this is important twisting-wise. Because we all get super talented kid, lay out, see the ground, beautiful half. Okay, do a full. You know, and then they do a full and it's okay. Then we give up on half. And we stop keeping them honest. I say keeping them honest. And we go right to the full and then it starts moving in the wrong direction. So, one of the other rules I have in leg twisting, once they can do a full, their whole first year, I very rarely do 2 fulls in a row. So even in a meet, the warm-up would be lay out, full, or lay out, full, lay out, full. And then in the one touch, it would be lay out, full. And then they do their second full. But I'm very cautious about doing too many of them. It's part front flip. And I think it's a very valid technique. I have seen people teach it very effectively. It's bothersome that I think the hands get involved and the head turns a little early. In a good Arabian, that doesn't happen. But by nature of where this thing is turning earlier and becoming front flip, kids tend to do that. Who would be a candidate for this kind of skill? For I think Arabian technique. Who's a candidate? Who in your gym, you're teaching your aides, and you've done this leg twisting thing. Yeah. Kids that are good at front twisting are a great candidate for this. Are kids that are good in the front layout, and they know where they're at, and they like looking at the floor, and they like looking at the floor through a half turn. And those kids, by the way, when you get to multiple twisting, sometimes they do a lot better than the set and full people. But essentially, that's what you're teaching. How many of you have taught a class? So what's really happening is you're coming off the table to a quarter. It almost looks like you're going to do a cartwheel, and then you can look at the floor through the entire twist and finish the turn. And this, for me, the quarter up, 3/4 down, is when the kids messed up. Okay, when they've done not doing the Healy twirl off the table, and I can't get you to initiate flip, I go, okay, I'm going to let you do this, and I'm going to teach you how to come off the table with a quarter and understand how to take your ear and rotate. Move your leg and take your ear and rotate and lift the lead arm to establish rotation and twist and then drop it. And I had a kid that came, says, I don't do folds. Love that. I don't do folds. I do a nice layout. I can't do a fold anyway. So and I'll show you the method we used. We taught her a cartwheel, side flip into the pit. So you stand, you do a cartwheel. When you get to the pit, the second cartwheel is a side flip. And I taught her how to rotate a side flip. And then once she understood how to rotate a side flip, I added a quarter turn. So now she's a half, then a 3/4 turn, and then a full. And she learned a full and vault that way. So when the kid's at the beginning of you know how you have to do step down full for sticks? She couldn't do that. I can't do that, that's a full. But she was doing Yurchenko full. But in her head, she didn't process it like that. So she could never do that walk down full. I don't do fulls. So that's another way. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to watch Arabian. You can, however, see a wrap, right? Did everybody see the shoulder go up? So what was that? Not Arabian. And again, that's a late twist kid. Is this one? I can't tell. Help me out here.
Are you on to the next? What do you want to do?
Okay, here we go. Now we're going to go to the next one. That's cool.
Okay.
I used to have $silver. Someone stole it. And I put it on the back of the table and I'd ask them to tell me, even in twisting, was it heads or tails? To keep them from moving their head early. Does everybody get that? So if their hands in here, the $silver would be back there. One of the college kids ripped it off. Here we go. Let's look at one more. I want to look at the last one because it's multiple twists. Okay, so what was that, guys? Here's a 1.5. Yep, quarter up. And that, again, in the multiple full, and followed the floor for a long time before she did the half. I believe that is the way to do 1.5. And because of that, I would never teach a 1.5 to a kid that's going to learn a double full. This is one of the rare places where I won't walk the increments. If you're going to do a double full, you do full, double full. All right, if you're going to do a 1.5, if you don't think the kid has the power base, or you're not going there, you do full plus a half. Right, so I said it's not a wrap 1.5. She did not do a wrap. She definitely looks the full, follows the full, and then looks the half, and as a consequence of that, never lands lock-legged or piped or does those silly, you know, in your career kind of landings. So if you're going to do the 1.5, teach it as a full half, and I do it on the floor like that as well. Full, look, step out half, like the kids are doing now. You watch the 1.5s on the floor. They're doing full, and they're quartering out. They're looking right at the floor as they do the quarter out, to step out. They're not wrapping them. It's very hard to do that there and land effectively. You have to have great air sense and really understand how to engage your hamstrings and protect yourself on the landing. So if you're going double full, it's full, double full. If you're doing 1.5, it's full, add half. I talked about, this is where I introduce all twisting. The drill she's doing is not done for what people think it's done for. But she's doing tuck and layout, bouncing up her hands and keeping her hands up. And everyone goes, that's a set. And that's not at all what it's for. I don't believe you block, set your arms, and wrap. It doesn't happen that way. But the reason I do this block like this and keep your arms up is what do kids usually do as they block? They pull. They pull down. When you pull down, do you rise? You're going to do double full, you can't pull down. Baroni, unreal. Man, you can see it, right? Do you see any of this with her on the table? So that's what I'm after there. I'm not after a set. And the only reason they do this and keep their arms up because the natural tendency is to pull and do it while you're on the table. So I'm just drilling this. That's all. And they keep them there because it's easy to get this if you're doing that. All right, that's the only reason. So don't misunderstand what I'm doing there. I don't think you go on the floor like set and wrap. All right, so that's what she's doing. This table trainer, in terms of twisting, and you can see she's walking the twisting increments. This is after she's done this for a while. She's doing half, full, and she would do this numerous times. Lay out half, full, lay out half, full, repeat. And through the sequence, as many as 5, I call it cycles, as many as 5 cycles. The day that she was ready to go over to the table, or layout was strong on the table, I took her over there, she did layout half full, and it looked exactly like that. Out here is we're learning an Arabian. Okay, you can see the turn, the initiation of the turn a little bit earlier, and then the drive of the hamstrings to continue the flip. Now, ideally, this should be done maybe a hair later. It should be a little more initiation of rotation. And this is clearly Arabian full. She's seeing the floor and following the floor. And if you're going to teach this method, obviously you should learn it on Trankman as well. And something she does I really like, by the way, see her spot? Can we go back to that? See how she's visual takeoff spot on the Arabian and then makes the turn and finds the floor. So she's got a double spot. She's got spot takeoff, spot floor, drive the hamstring, which is really good. It's hard to get this because most kids will move their head. See it? Now, I will tell you, on Arabian teaching on the floor, what I like to do, and it works fabulous, is you stand on the mat. Do I have anyone that, really? Are you sure? All right, you may not like this. Okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to stand facing that way. You're going to jump and gainer forward and back up. You're going to land on your back. Swing your arms, press forward, back up. Is that too hard? Okay, once we do this, now we do it with a half turn to our stomach. did it really well. That was amazing. Then I stand there, and she goes, and we're going to mimic this. So I would stand there and go, do the jump gainer, do the half, we're not going to do it. Jump gainer, half turn to my arms, set her in a handstand, roll down. Everybody get that? We're not doing that today. Okay? So jump, gainer forward, half turn to my arms, handstand fall. Then I start to develop it from the round off punch, half turn to a handstand on resi, half turn to handstand on resi, fly spring out. What's the fly spring represent? The hamstrings. Okay, and it's a great way to teach. Does everybody get that? This drill, capture, then same thing, up into a resi to handstand, up into a resi to handspring, fly spring out. Great way. Can you twist early or too early on that? Only once onto that resi. Yeah, they don't do it a lot. So a couple great little drills for Arabian. And I very rarely teach an Arabian. If I do teach Arabian, if someone sees one of my kids doing an Arabian, it's because their half got earlier. And it's turned into an Arabian.
But if you're going to introduce, like, i.e. double Arabian, which is trend to be, when would you introduce it as a skill on the floor?
That's a whole nother subject, but I would introduce it like this. I would introduce it in concert with doing leg twisting, and having them understand the difference between doing leg and how things work. This is clearly different.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, so they know it's a different feeling. I'm not a big double Arabian fan, to be honest with you. I've seen too many knees and too many backs, and if I could do a floor and look at the floor, you know, the elite rules are different. You've got to do it. I'm just not a huge fan of it, but I am going to show you how to teach it. Try to gain that one. Are you ready? I'm ready. That's good. That was awesome. That was good. And now stack mats there. Let's stop for a second. Here's the setup. They're flip-flopping onto the table. They're going to a support on their feet on the mat. And then they're doing just what they were doing on the trampoline. The only downside of this is when they do this, they typically do this to get going, and that is an issue. And you have to be aware. So, although I like this, I recognize that mechanically it's not quite the same. All right, so I'm going to give you a way to get around. I want you to do this, but I'm going to give you some ideas on how to make sure they don't get too wild with it. So that was pretty good. She didn't toss her head very much. Great lead up. Okay, there's the full. Let's stop it. Now she actually did kind of a hybrid. She's not quite half, is she? But she's not quarter. She's in between. But I think she was trying to do half-half. Oh, she's not even quarter. Right? Did you see it? And in a minute, she'll do 3 of these. Just, and that's pretty concise. That's pretty good. There's initiation rotation. I don't think she's rotating off or twisting off the table. She's pretty square. You guys see where her head was? Yeah, elevated. And she can work on that on the table strike. Okay, there's the border up. Now, let's freeze her when she's up on the table. One thing I like to do with this, if your mats are long enough, is do this to a side cartwheel. So you actually quarter up, and right out of it you side cartwheel. Because it gives them that sensation that you're continuing the rotation. Everybody catch that? So you build a longer platform. And the step that's not in here, I like it. Let's stop for a second. The step that's not in here is I like them to actually go quarter up and side flip with this foam. And that's a weird feeling. They have drill. She goes to scratch, snaps to straight, and then comes off the table. And I've used this a lot over the years. It's very effective. Now here it is to the quarter. So this is another great one for kids that twist too soon. They have to feel the teeter-totter. I call it a teeter-totter. The legs coming through and then the arm elevating.